On a rainy evening, a struggling woman was wiping down tables in a restaurant, earning every dollar she could to help her younger brother through college. Suddenly, an older man stepped in, his coat soaked, his face uneasy as if he'd walked into the wrong place. The other servers ignored him, assuming he wouldn't leave a decent tip. Only she approached, welcoming him with quiet kindness, offering him a warm cup of coffee and a grilled salmon. The next day, she was suddenly fired because of that simple act of kindness. But when the man returned and revealed who he really was, everything changed. Before we dive in, leave a comment below and tell us where you're from. We'd love to hear your thoughts. The rain came down soft and steady over Columbus that Monday evening, tapping against the wide windows of Whitmore Grill. The lights inside glowed a little too yellow, reflecting off polished tables and glasses half filled with melting ice. The dinner rush had long passed, leaving the restaurant in that quiet middle stretch between early families and late drinkers. The hum of an old ceiling fan mixed with the low murmur of a radio playing something from the 70s. Lisa Harper wiped down the counter for the third time. She wasn't in a hurry, just filling the silence. Her brown hair was tied back tight, her sleeves rolled up from habit. After 3 years working here, she knew the rhythm of the place. The sharp laughter of co-workers at the bar, the polite tone reserved for well-dressed customers, the invisible line dividing who was treated with charm and who wasn't. Beth, one of the senior servers, leaned against the espresso machine scrolling through her phone. Jason, the other waiter on duty, stood near the front with that easy slouch of someone who'd never been scolded for taking his time. He laughed loud at something on his screen. The sound carried across the empty tables like it owned the place. Lisa finished wiping the counter and looked toward the door, half out of hope someone might walk in, half because she didn't want to listen to Beth and Jason anymore. She thought about her brother Evan back at his college dorm, about the bill she had promised to help pay next week. She thought about how tired she was of keeping her mouth shut. "Don't stir trouble, Lisa," she told herself. "You need this job. Just one more month until Evan's semester ends." The bell over the door jingled then, soft and uncertain. A tall older man stepped in from the rain. He wore a dark jacket, clean but frayed at the cuffs, and a plain cap. Drops of water clung to his shoulders. He hesitated inside the doorway, glancing around the room like he wasn't sure he belonged. Beth didn't look up. Jason kept scrolling. Lisa dried her hands on her apron and walked forward. "Evenin'," she said with a smile. "Come on in, sir. Would you like a booth or a table by the window?" The man's eyes softened with a kind of tired surprise. "Table's fine, window's good," he said, voice low and gravelly. Lisa guided him to the window, where the streetlights blurred in the rain. "Coffee?" she asked. "Black, if it's fresh." "It always is," she said, and meant it. She poured from the pot she'd brewed half an hour ago, still hot, and set it before him with a steady hand. "Take your time, the salmon's good tonight, fresh batch just came off the grill." He nodded, studying her with quiet gratitude. "You've got a good eye," he said. "Salmon sounds fine." From across the room, Beth snickered. "Wasting your charm on a slow tipper," she muttered. Jason grinned but didn't look up. Lisa caught the whisper, pretended she hadn't, and walked back to ring in the order. As she passed the counter, Jason leaned in. "He's all yours, sweetheart. Don't say we didn't warn you." Lisa didn't bother replying. She'd learned early that silence spoke louder than any defense. But inside, her chest tightened. She could almost hear her father's voice from years ago, before he'd passed. "You treat people right, Liz, doesn't matter what they wear." She took the plate herself when it was ready, a perfectly grilled salmon, golden on the edges, a lemon wedge on the side, and carried it to the man's table. "Here you go, sir," she said. "Would you like anything else?" He looked up at her, eyes kind but weary. "No ma'am, this'll do fine. You folks must be near closing." "Not quite," she said. "We've got time." For a moment neither spoke. The rain pattered softly against the glass. Lisa watched him unfold his napkin with careful hands, movements slow but sure. There was dignity in the way he sat, like a man used to taking up little space. She knew that posture, people who'd been ignored too often. He took a bite, nodded once. "Honest food," he said. "Hard to find that these days." Lisa smiled. "That's my favorite kind. When she turned back toward the counter, she could feel Beth's eyes on her, sharp and judgmental. She ignored it, went about refilling water glasses that didn't need refilling, checking on empty tables. The small act, serving that man with simple respect, had drawn a line she couldn't erase. Later that night, as she clocked out, Beth leaned close. "You really ought to pick your guests better, honey. The world runs on tips, not charity." Lisa's jaw tightened. She didn't answer. Out in the parking lot, the air smelled of wet leaves. She sat in her car a while, watching the rain bead on the windshield. Maybe it was foolish, she thought. Maybe I should have just kept my head down. But then she pictured the man's quiet nod, the way his shoulders had lowered after the first sip of coffee. That small shift mattered more than any dollar left on a table. She drove home in silence, headlights slicing through mist, a tired song playing low on the radio. When she crawled into bed later, she couldn't quite sleep. Her body was heavy, but her mind kept replaying the look on that man's face, the gratitude that didn't need words. "You did the right thing," she told herself. Even if no one saw it. The next morning dawned gray and cold. She pulled into the lot behind Whitmore Grill with her coffee still half full. Inside, Beth and Jason stood near the hostess stand, whispering and grinning. Something about their faces set her on edge. "Morning," Lisa said, hanging her coat. They didn't answer. The manager, Tom, appeared from the office door. His face was flat, practiced. "Lisa," he said. "Can I see you for a minute?" Her stomach sank. Inside his office, the blinds were half closed. A clock ticked loud on the wall. Tom didn't sit. "We're letting you go," he said. Like reading a memo. "What?" The word came out smaller than she meant. "It's not working out." "I've been here 3 years," she said quietly. "Never missed a shift." Tom shrugged. "Doesn't seem like a fit anymore." Lisa stood there, hands trembling just enough that she crossed her arms to hide it. "Did I do something wrong?" Tom looked past her, toward the window. "Let's not make this harder than it has to be." That was it. No explanation, no warning, just dismissal. She unfastened her apron, folded it neat on the desk. "All right," she said softly. "I hope you have a good day, Tom." He didn't answer. When she stepped out, Beth's grin was small and mean. Jason didn't even pretend not to watch. Lisa walked straight through the dining room, out the front door, and into the crisp morning. She made it to her car before her eyes stung. She sat there, hands on the steering wheel, the world suddenly too quiet. Now what, Liz, what now? Her phone buzzed, unknown number. She almost ignored it, then sighed and, "Hello?" A calm, low voice spoke on the other end. "Miss Harper, this is Miller Lawson. You served me last night at Whitmore Grill." Lisa blinked, surprised. "Oh yes sir, of course. Is everything all right?" There was a pause. "I heard you were let go this morning." She gripped the phone tighter. "Word travels fast." "I suppose it does," he said. His tone carried something gentle but firm. "That's exactly why I'm calling." Lisa frowned. "I'm sorry, but how did you—" "I own Whitmore Grill," the man said simply. "And I think we need to talk." She sat back in her seat, breath caught in her chest. The rain had stopped. The world outside was still gray, but for the first time in a long while, something small and bright flickered inside her, a spark of disbelief, of hope, of change coming from the most unexpected place. She didn't know it yet, but that quiet act of kindness had just turned her whole world on its head. Lisa sat in her car long after the call ended, the engine idling low, the steady hum of rain on the roof mixed with her heartbeat. She stared out the windshield, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Miller Lawson, the quiet man from the night before, the one she'd served when no one else would. Now he was saying he owned Whitmore Grill. She reached for her phone again, half expecting a follow-up message saying it was some kind of mistake. Nothing came. Just the gray sky outside, and the soft clicking of the wipers as they swept away the last of the morning drizzle. "Guess we're doing this," she whispered. Miller suggested a coffee shop a few blocks away, one of those old places with squeaky wooden floors and pictures of Columbus in black and white. When Lisa walked in, he was already there, sitting by the window with a folded newspaper and that same quiet posture. He looked up when she approached. "Miss Harper," he said, standing just enough to shake her hand. "Thank you for meeting me." "Of course," she said. "I wasn't exactly busy." Miller smiled faintly. "I suppose not." They sat. The waitress brought coffee without asking. Clearly he was a regular. Steam rose between them. "I need to start by apologizing," he said. "What happened to you this morning shouldn't have happened the way it did." Lisa folded her hands in her lap. "It's all right," she said softly. "I've been through worse." "I don't think it is all right," Miller said. His tone wasn't angry, just firm. "I own several restaurants in this area. I like to visit without announcing myself. You learn a lot more that way." She looked up at him, confusion mingling with disbelief. "So last night, you were checking on us." "In a way, I wanted to see the culture for myself." He leaned forward, voice low. "What I saw bothered me. The way that man at the bar was ignored. The way your coworkers sized up customers before deciding whether they mattered." Lisa swallowed. "That's how it's been for a while. You learn to stay quiet if you want to keep your job." He nodded slowly. "And yet you didn't." She gave a small tired smile. "I guess I forgot to be afraid for a minute." Miller's eyes softened. "That forgetfulness cost you your position, but it showed me exactly what's wrong with my restaurant." He paused, then said, "Truth is, I wanted to see what Tom and his team would do once I left. I let the situation play out, even though I knew it was unfair to you. I needed to be sure." Lisa stared at him. "You let them fire me." "I did," he admitted quietly. "And I regret that. But now I know who I can trust." She sat back, emotions mixing faster than she could name them. Shock, anger, relief, disbelief. "So what happens now?" Miller folded his hands. "You come back. But not as a server." The room seemed to pause around her. A cappuccino machine hissed in the background, the smell of cinnamon and roasted beans filling the air. "What do you mean not as a server?" she asked. "I want you to manage Whitmore Grill," he said plainly. "Starting immediately." Lisa blinked. "Manage? Me? You understand fairness. You know what it feels like to be overlooked. That's the kind of leadership a place like Whitmore needs." She shook her head slowly. "Mr. Lawson, I'm a waitress with a community college degree and a used car that barely starts. I've never managed anything." "Experience matters," he said. "But heart matters more. You've already done the hard part. You cared when no one was watching." Lisa looked down at her coffee. "They'll hate me for it. Beth, Jason, Tom. They already do," he said with a small grin. "But that won't last. Respect grows from consistency." For a long moment, Lisa didn't answer. She thought about Evan, about the rent due next week, about how small she'd felt walking out of that restaurant earlier. She also thought about what Miller had just said. Respect grows from consistency. Could she really do it? Could she change that place? Finally, she lifted her head. "If I come back," she said, "we do this right. No favoritism, no cruelty, we start over." Miller nodded. "That's all I ask." The next morning, sunlight broke through the clouds for the first time in days. The air felt clean, sharp, almost new. Lisa parked behind Whitmore Grill and sat for a moment, watching the golden light hit the windows. Inside, the staff was gathering for the morning prep. Beth and Jason were joking by the counter. Tom stood near the pass window with his clipboard. The laughter died when Lisa walked in, Miller right behind her. Tom's expression curdled. "Lisa, what's she doing here?" Miller's voice cut through the quiet. "Good morning, everyone." Heads turned. Even Beth straightened up. "As of today," Miller continued, "Whitmore Grill begins a new chapter. Some changes will be made immediately." He looked at Tom. "Tom, thank you for your time here. Your position ends today." Tom blinked. "Excuse me." Miller didn't raise his voice. "Excused," he said simply. "You'll receive full severance." Beth gasped. Jason muttered something under his breath. Miller turned to Lisa. "This is Lisa Harper," he said. "She will be your new manager. She's here to rebuild the culture of this restaurant from the ground up. I expect your full cooperation." Lisa's pulse hammered in her chest. Every eye was on her, some skeptical, some angry, a few quietly curious. She forced herself to stand tall. "I know this is unexpected," she said, her voice steady. "I'm not here to make enemies, I'm here to make this place better for all of us." Beth crossed her arms. "So what, we're supposed to take orders from you now?" Lisa met her gaze. "No. You're supposed to work with me." Silence hung for a beat. Then Miller nodded once, satisfied. "You have my full support," he said. "I'll be checking in. But this is your house now." When he left, the room stayed quiet, except for the sound of the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. Lisa let out a slow breath. "All right," she said softly. "Let's get to work." By the lunch shift, it was clear the others weren't going to make things easy. Orders went in late, silverware ran short, Jason forgot to restock the sugar. Beth rolled her eyes whenever Lisa spoke, but Lisa didn't raise her voice. She handled each small act of defiance the same way, calmly, directly, with no judgment. "Jason," she said quietly at one point, "the sugar's low, please refill it." He sighed loud enough for everyone to hear. "Right away, boss," he said, dripping sarcasm. Lisa smiled faintly. "Thank you." The simple even tone caught him off guard. He grumbled but did it. Later during a lull, Lisa called everyone to the front. "We're changing a few things," she said. "No more choosing tables based on who looks like a good tipper. We'll rotate sections evenly. Everyone greets guests within 30 seconds, no exceptions." Beth raised an eyebrow. "You're kidding." "No," Lisa said, "we treat everyone like they matter. That's the rule." The others exchanged looks, some smirked, some didn't react at all. Lisa felt her stomach twist, but she held steady. "Give it time," she told herself. "Show them." That evening, a young couple came in wearing paint-stained clothes. Jason was near the door but he turned away, pretending not to notice. Lisa caught it immediately, and stepped forward. "Welcome," she said, with an easy smile. "Come on in, booth or table." They chose a booth by the wall. She brought menus, water and a genuine welcome. The couple thanked her twice, clearly surprised to be treated kindly in a place that usually looked down on their kind of clothes. When Lisa passed the counter again, she saw Jason watching. Their eyes met briefly. He looked away, embarrassed. A moment later, he picked up a tray and helped clear a table without being asked. It was small, but she noticed. As the couple finished their meal, the young man said, "We'll be back. Feels different in here tonight." Lisa smiled, and for the first time all day she believed it. That night, after closing, she locked the doors and stood alone in the quiet restaurant. The tables gleamed under the soft light. The smell of grilled fish lingered faintly in the air. She ran her fingers over the counter, remembering the same spot where Beth had mocked her days ago. Kindness isn't weakness, she thought. It's strength that doesn't need applause. Outside, the rain started again, light and steady. Lisa pulled on her coat, turned off the lights, and stepped out into the cool night. The neon sign above the door flickered softly. Whitmore Grill, bright again after so long. Tomorrow would bring more resistance, more testing. But for the first time in years, Lisa felt ready, because now, she wasn't just serving food. She was serving something far more important: dignity, fairness, and the belief that everyone who walked through that door deserved both. The following weeks rolled in quietly, like a new season settling over Columbus. Mornings at Whitmore Grill began earlier now, lights on before sunrise, the smell of fresh coffee filling the air. Lisa was always first through the door. She liked that still hour before the others came in, when the restaurant was only hums and shadows, waiting to wake up. It gave her time to breathe, to remember why she was here. She'd started a list in a small notebook she kept behind the register: fairness, dignity, gratitude. Every morning she read it like a quiet promise to herself. Friday night came heavy and fast. The line outside reached the sidewalk and every table inside was full. The air smelled of sizzling butter and garlic, the noise of clinking plates filling the room. Lisa moved between tables, keeping an eye on everything: smiles where they should be, orders flowing, guests content. Then near the kitchen she saw it, Beth ignoring a table of construction workers, her attention fixed on a group of businessmen waving $100 bills. Lisa walked over, voice calm but firm. Beth, table 6 has been waiting for 10 minutes. Beth didn't look at her. I'll get there. Lisa took a breath. Go now please. Beth turned, eyes sharp. You think you can tell me what to do just because you got lucky? You're not better than me, Lisa. The words hit harder than Lisa expected. She kept her voice even. I'm not better than anyone, Beth. But they deserve the same service as anyone else. Beth laughed under her breath. You and your little crusade for kindness. Something inside Lisa tightened, not anger exactly, but a quiet strength. No crusade, she said. Just respect. Start there. Beth stared at her for a moment, then finally grabbed a pad and headed to the table. The night went on, but the air felt tense. Later, when the rush slowed, Jason came by the counter, voice low. You handled that well, he said. Old Beth would have walked out. Lisa managed a small smile. Maybe old me would have too. He nodded, thoughtful. Guess we're both learning something. The following evening, thunder rolled through the city, shaking the windows. Customers came in drenched, laughing, shaking off umbrellas. Lisa moved through it all with a towel over her arm, drying chairs, offering hot drinks on the house. A woman in her 70s arrived alone, clutching a small floral umbrella. Her coat was soaked through, and her glasses fogged. She hesitated near the entrance, uncertain. Lisa walked up with a gentle smile. Welcome in, ma'am, let's get you somewhere warm. The woman's voice trembled. I'm just here for a bowl of soup, dear. Don't want to be a bother. You're no bother at all, Lisa said. Sit right here by the heater. She brought her a dry napkin, a cup of coffee, and later a steaming bowl of tomato soup. When the woman took her first spoonful, tears welled in her eyes. Lisa crouched beside her. Is everything all right? The woman nodded quickly, embarrassed. It's silly. My husband and I used to come here years ago. He passed last winter. I didn't think I could come back. Lisa's heart caught in her throat. I'm glad you did. The woman smiled weakly. The place feels different now. Kinder. Lisa blinked back her own tears. We're trying. That's why you're here, she thought. Not to run a restaurant, to make space for moments like this. The next Monday, Lisa called everyone together after closing. The dining room was dim except for a few lamps over the bar. Coffee cups steamed on the counter. I know the last few weeks have been rough, Lisa began. Change always is, but I want to thank each of you for sticking it out. Jason nodded. Noah, the quiet server from the kitchen, smiled. Even Beth stood near the back, arms folded but listening. Lisa went on. I want to share something Mrs. Howard said tonight. The woman who came in during the storm. She said this place feels different. That's because of you. Beth's eyes flickered. I didn't do much, she muttered. Lisa looked at her kindly. You stayed. That's a start. A small laugh rippled around the room. The tension eased. Then Lisa said something she hadn't planned. You know, I used to think kindness was just about being nice. But it's more than that. It's about courage, doing the right thing even when it costs you. Sometimes, especially then. For a long moment no one spoke. Then Noah said softly, guess you'd know about that. Lisa smiled. Maybe we all do now. They ended the night with a sense of quiet peace. When the others left, Beth lingered. Lisa, she said finally, I wanted to say, I'm sorry, for the way I was. Lisa looked at her, surprised but touched. Thank you, Beth. Beth nodded, eyes low. You were right. Feels better this way. By the end of the month word had spread. Old customers returned. New ones came by recommendation. The atmosphere shifted, lighter, easier. People laughed more. Even Jason, who used to judge every table by the suit of the guest, now opened doors for families and retirees alike. One evening, Miller Lawson stopped by unannounced. Lisa didn't notice him at first. He'd chosen a quiet corner near the window, same as before. When she finally saw him, she smiled, remembering that first rainy night. Mr. Lawson, she said, you caught us on a good night. He looked around the room, the chatter, the steady rhythm of service, Beth laughing with a young couple, Jason helping an elderly man with his coat. I'd say I caught you on the right night, he said. Lisa poured him coffee, black as always. You've done well, he said. Better than I hoped. Lisa shook her head. We did. Took all of us. He nodded. You were the spark though. Never underestimate what one person's decency can do. For a moment, Lisa thought of that first night, of the look on his face when she set down his cup of coffee, not knowing who he was. I wasn't trying to impress anyone, she said. I just didn't want someone to feel small. That's the best reason there is, Miller said. He left her with that thought and a smile. Saturday evening came bustling, every seat filled again. The door opened and a frail older man stepped inside, leaning on a cane. His coat was threadbare, his steps slow. Jason was nearest the door. Lisa watched him instinctively shift old habits rising, but then he stopped. He turned toward the man and smiled. Evening, sir, Jason said. Let me get that door for you. Lisa froze watching. The man thanked him softly. Jason led him to a table by the wall, poured water without being told. For Lisa it was like watching the end of a long silent prayer. She felt her chest loosen, her eyes sting. Beth came up beside her, whispering, "You see that?" Lisa nodded. "I did. Guess you were right," Beth said quietly. "Kindness spreads." Lisa smiled, eyes glistening. "So does respect." The dining room was alive with easy laughter and warmth. The clatter of dishes had rhythm now, not chaos. Even the lights seemed softer. Later that night, when the last guests left, Jason walked up to her. "I used to think being nice made you look weak," he said. "Now I think it just means you're strong enough not to care what people think." Lisa smiled. "Took me a while to learn that too." After closing, Lisa stood alone by the window table, the same one where everything began. The reflection in the glass showed the warm lights behind her, the soft rain outside. She touched the tabletop gently, like greeting an old friend. "It's not just a job anymore," she thought. "It's proof that one good thing can grow, even in the hardest soil." She turned off the lights one by one until only the glow from the sign outside remained. The letters flickered against the dark. Whitmore Grill, a place reborn through simple acts done with care. Lisa slipped on her coat, locked the door, and stepped into the rain. The air smelled fresh, washed clean. She took a deep breath and smiled to herself. Kindness isn't something you do once, she thought. It's something you build, one small choice at a time. And as she walked to her car under the soft streetlights, she realized, maybe for the first time in her life, that she hadn't just changed a restaurant. She'd changed the way people saw one another. And that, she thought, was the truest kind of success there could ever be. Spring came early that year. The snow melted off the sidewalks of Columbus, leaving small puddles that glittered under the first real sunlight in weeks. At Whitmore Grill, the windows stood open for the first time since winter, and a soft breeze carried the smell of fresh bread through the dining room. Lisa stood near the entrance, watching the staff prepare for lunch. Jason wiped down tables without being told. Beth tied her apron and helped a new hostess with the seating chart. From the kitchen came the sounds of laughter, Noah teasing the line, cooks over music that played softly from someone's phone. The place felt alive again. She turned toward the big front window, the same one where it had all begun. The glass gleamed clear and bright. For a moment she caught her reflection, older, a little tired, but peaceful in a way she hadn't been in years. That afternoon, the door opened and a young man stepped inside. He looked around the restaurant, a backpack slung over one shoulder, then smiled when he saw her. "Evan," Lisa said, hurrying over. She pulled him into a hug that smelled faintly of coffee and lemon cleaner. "Hey sis," he said, grinning. "Wow, this place looks amazing. Totally different." Lisa laughed. "It feels different too." He slid into a booth while she poured him coffee. "You seem lighter," he said. "Like you're not carrying the world anymore." She smiled. "Maybe I finally learned to put it down." They talked between customers, about his classes, her long hours, the new menu. Evan watched the flow of the restaurant, the easy way people smiled when they walked in. Beth passed their table with a plate of soup, nodding politely. "So that's the one who used to give you grief," Evan whispered. Lisa chuckled. "That's her. She's doing great now. People really can change," he said. Lisa looked around the room, the full tables, the hum of conversation, the sunlight dancing on silverware. "They can," she said, "if someone gives them the chance." Evening came softly, the sky turning the color of faded rose over the city. Business slowed, and the last few customers lingered over dessert. The front door opened again, and a tall familiar figure walked in, coat draped neatly over his arm, eyes kind behind wire-rimmed glasses. Miller Lawson. Lisa met him at the door with a smile. "Mr. Lawson, it's been a while." He nodded. "I thought I'd stop by and see how my favorite experiment turned out." "You're just in time for coffee," she said. "Your usual table, always." She led him to the same window seat where he'd sat that rainy night months ago. The city outside shimmered with early spring rain, soft and golden under the streetlights. She poured his coffee and set it down gently. He looked around. "It's changed." "It has," she said. "Not just the paint or the menu. The people." He took a sip, smiled. "And you?" Lisa shrugged lightly. "I just set the tone." Sometimes, Miller said, that's all leadership is. Setting a tone and keeping it steady, no matter who's listening. They sat quietly, for a moment, the comfortable kind of silence that comes from shared understanding. Then Miller reached into his coat pocket and slid an envelope across the table. "What's this?" she asked. "A little thank you," he said. "The restaurant's doing better than ever. I thought it was time to make it official. You're not just managing Whitmore Grill. You're a partner now." Her hand froze on the envelope. "A partner?" He nodded. "You earned it." Lisa's eyes filled before she could stop them. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll keep doing what you're doing," he said warmly. "That's enough." She smiled, blinking away tears. "I will." That night, after the last customer left, Lisa gathered the staff by the counter. The lights were dimmed, the music soft. She held the envelope in her hand but didn't mention it. "I just wanted to say thank you," she began. "When all this started, I thought kindness was something you gave out, like a free refill. But now I know it's something you build together, bit by bit, shift by shift. You all did that." Beth looked around the room, then smiled shyly. "Guess we had a good teacher." Jason raised his coffee mug. "To Lisa," he said, "and to second chances." "No," Lisa said, shaking her head gently. "To all of us. To doing better, even when nobody's watching." They clinked mugs, and for a while the room filled with the kind of laughter that came easy. No edge, no tension, just people who'd learned to trust each other again. Outside, rain pattered softly on the glass, just like that first night. But now the sound felt like music. A few weeks later, Lisa stood near the host stand with a new teenage server, nervous in his too big apron. "Deep breath," Lisa said kindly. "You'll be fine." He nodded quickly. "I just don't want to mess up." "You will," she said with a grin. "Everyone does. The trick is learning fast and treating people right." Beth walked by, tying her hair back. "Come on, kid, I'll show you where we keep the extra menus." The boy followed her into the dining room, and Lisa watched them go. There it was again, the small quiet passing of kindness from one person to another. The thing that kept the world turning. It was late. The chairs were up, lights dim. Lisa wiped down the last table, the one by the window. Outside, the street was empty, except for a few glistening puddles under the lamplight. She ran her cloth in a slow circle across the wood, remembering everything that had happened here. The old man in the rain, the firing, the return, the laughter, the tears. Her reflection in the window met her eyes. She smiled softly at it. It was never just about a job, she thought. It was about seeing people again. All of them. Including myself. She turned off the lights, flipped the sign to closed, and stepped outside. The air smelled like wet pavement and spring flowers. She locked the door and glanced back one last time. Inside, the restaurant glowed faintly from the kitchen light, a warm, steady heart in the dark. Lisa walked down the quiet street toward her car, her footsteps echoing softly. The night air felt cool on her face. She thought of all the people she'd met, all the small moments that had built this new life. None of them had been grand or dramatic, just ordinary kindness, shown again and again, until it became something solid, something that lasted. As she reached the corner, she looked up at the faint silver of the moon breaking through the clouds, and whispered to herself, smiling, "Honest food, honest hearts. That's enough." And under the glow of the streetlights, Lisa Harper walked on, grateful, fulfilled, and quietly certain that the kindness she'd started would keep rippling outward long after the night was over. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.